If you think it's scary on the outside, wait till you see the basement. You're in for the longest night of your life. Ghosts, goblins, demons, wolves, bats, creatures lurking around every corner. As you descend deeper and deeper, they get thicker and thicker. Better stick close to the cavern floor. It's your only chance of finding a weapon or two. You're gonna need them, because when you finally meet the Count, you know he'll be going for the jugular. So keep your courage up and your stakes sharp, and say your prayers. In Castlevania, from Konami, released in 1987, on 1.5 million other consoles. Well, 5, maybe, I don't know. Literal translation, Devil's Castle Dracula. Dracula's the name of the castle, I see. This video game series, created and developed by Konami, centered on the Belmonts, a clan of vampire hunters in their fight with Dracula. Series debuted in Japan on September 26th, 1986, with the release of the Famicom version, followed by an alternate version for the MSX2. Although the MSX2 port, localized in Europe and Brazil as Vampire Killer, was released first outside of Japan, the series did not receive wide attention until it was ported to cartridge format for the NES and localized for North America and the European versions of Castlevania. The series soon became one of Konami's flagship series. Castlevania titles have been released on various platforms from early systems like the NES to modern consoles. It has also been released for pocket PCs and mobile phones. The first console title, Castlevania, released for the NES in '86 by Konami, was a typical platform game in which we take the role of Simon Belmont, a descendant of the Belmont clan, a family of vampire hunters. He travels to Dracula's demonic castle, Castlevania, and fights his way through the castle, destroying Dracula himself and the castle. The Belmont's main weapon is a whip called the Vampire Killer, while the secondary weapons are powered by hearts collected by attacking candles and killing monsters. Secondary weapons are daggers, holy water, flying axe, and the cross. Hidden items such as power-ups and food items are found by attacking walls within the levels. A feature inspired by Nintendo's Super Mario Bros., with countless hidden items across the game's levels. The earliest games borrowed source material from motifs in iconic horror cinema and other monsters from the Universal Horror and Hammer era of films, like werewolves, the Frankenstein monster, mummies, Medusas, the Grim Reaper, and Dracula himself. The early games paid homage to these films, of course. The staff roll of the original Castlevania mentioned parody names modeled after famous people associated with the horror genre, such as Bram Stoker. Play obviously on Bram Stoker, writer of the original novel. Later games also include many monsters from mythological sources. Most of the Castlevania game franchise has been about the vampire hunting family of the Belmonts and Dracula. Almost every 100 years, Dracula is resurrected, and generally the Belmonts must defeat him. Through most games in the series involve the Belmonts and their descendants, some protagonists, such as Soma Cruz and Alucard, are completely unrelated. The series is loosely based on the novel Dracula. The novel is included in the official timeline of the series, with Castlevania Bloodlines taking place shortly afterwards. We talked about this not too long ago, if I do remember right. Or maybe that was in something else I did. I don't know. I do a lot of things. It's hard to keep track. The connection goes so far as to claim that Quincy Morris, a character from the novel, is in fact a Belmont descendant, because we actually get to play as a couple of Morris characters in some of the other games. How about that? In Japan, the series is known as Devil's Castle Dracula. However, not every installment for the franchise has that title. For example, the first 2 installments for the Game Boy released under the title Dracula Densetsu, and the game, known in North America as Castlevania 3: Dracula's Curse, was originally released in Japan as basically Akumajo Densetsu. Thought there was another. There is a period there. It's very tiny. Castlevania Bloodlines was also released as Vampire Killer in Japan. Starting with the release of Harmony of Dissonance for the Game Boy Advance, the Japanese games adopted the Castlevania name for a brief period. According to the series producer Koji Igarashi, the developer chose to adopt the Castlevania title as a way to involve scenarios that did not solely revolve around Dracula himself. After some demand from fans in Japan, Konami returned to the original title with the Japanese release of Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow. The series is known for its differences between Japanese and English versions, particularly in early installments. The localization process usually removes a heavy share of violence, nudity, and religious imagery. Removal of such material is prevalent in Nintendo and Super Nintendo titles, Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, and Super Castlevania 4, because of Nintendo of America's strict censorship policies at the time. Bloodlines for the Mega Drive was renamed Castlevania, the New Generation, for Europe and Australian releases to avoid the reference to blood used in the North American title. In addition, the blood was recolored and the gore removed throughout the European and Australian versions. Although censorship policies vary from country to country in Europe, Germany's strict decency standards inevitably affected the content released throughout the entire continent. The franchise has received a significant amount of critical acclaim, the most acclaim being Symphony of the Night, for God knows why, and the most panned being Judgment, which got scores of 93 and 49 out of 100, respectively. Many of the games have appeared on lists of best games ever. Symphony of the Night appeared at number 16 on IGN's Top 100 Games and was the first to be introduced on the GameSpot Greatest Games of All Time. Both acclaimed the game was successful, making a game in 2D while the industry was moving to 3D. Dracula's Curse was named the 9th best 8-bit game by Game Trailers. Super Castlevania 4 was named the 11th best game of the SNES by Screw Attack in their top 20 SNES games. The series as a whole was named the 4th best franchise in game ever behind Final Fantasy, The Legend of Zelda, and Mario. And, citing Symphony of the Night, Aria of Sorrow, and Super Castlevania 4 as highlights. Aria of Sorrow was named the 2nd best game on the Game Boy Advance and one of the must-buy for the system, according to the same website. 3 games appear in Nintendo Power Top 200 Games, namely Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow, and Circle of the Moon, at 23, 22, and 108, respectively. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this style of Castlevania game. I kind of actually prefer the more... I hate the term Metroidvania. I don't like it. It doesn't make sense. I know what you're trying to say, but stop it. I like the more RPG-ish style games. Aria of Sorrow I thought was great. Dawn of Sorrow I think is really good. Portrait of Ruin, great. Simon's Quest, love Simon's Quest. Still, this is a solid game. Played it a few times as a kid, didn't like it. Played it later, didn't like it. Played some more of the games in the series. While it didn't actually make this game better, it made me enjoy it more because of its place in everything else I was playing. Does that make sense? Anyway, if you haven't played Castlevania, you need to go play it because it's just one of those games you have to play.